How are we, Lions fans? Welcome back to the channel. This is The Analysis. A tough loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the weekend. On Sunday, we had the 1 p.m. kickoff in Eastern Time. Back in a slot where the Lions know very well from their own play-in days, the last 20 years or so. The lack of the primetime spots. They've been doing well in the primetime spots, but seemed like it was back to the losing ways for the Lions back in that 1 p.m. slot. A disappointing 20-16 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I want to say right off the bat, there needs to be a lot of credit given to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I said in these analysis videos right off of week one. Week one is fool's gold. You can't trust anything that comes out of week one. The Buccaneers got a great win at home in week one, coming up to Ford Field for week two, a rematch of the divisional playoff round last year. The Lions went 1-2 right away with the Rams and the Buccaneers. Their two opponents for the playoffs last year. Their two wins. Got one win from the Rams, but they could not get past the Buccaneers this time around in the regular season in week two. Really, a lot of credit needs to go to Baker Mayfield, to Todd Bowles, to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Their scheming, their their ability to stop what the Lions wanted to do on offense. I think a lot of the time, Baker Mayfield. We'll start off with him. You want to talk about grit, Lions? You want to talk about grit? In some of my darker moments, sit down and I think, especially with the way that Jared Goff played today, his lack of mobility in the pocket, he needs to take a page out of Baker Mayfield's book if he could on the athleticism scale because Baker Mayfield is extremely underrated in the pocket and knowing how to get out of there. He has extremely good football instincts. You just get a sense that he kind of knows exactly where the rush is coming from. He has that ability to dink and dunk through the pressure. The Lions really brought it today. Aiden Hutchinson had 5 sacks, pretty much. They got pressure up the middle. The Bucs offensive line was not having a good time with this Lions defensive line. They were getting pressure early and often. Aiden Hutchinson in the beginning of the game had 3 sacks in the first quarter, but Baker Mayfield found a way to get through that pressure somehow, and not only found a way to get through pressure, but make plays, get for key first downs, make dime throws to Chris Godwin, make dime throws to different receivers on the outside as he got out of the pocket, and even making big plays with his legs, making a guy miss and getting and breaking off big chunks of yards. Baker Mayfield was the Bucks' top rushing had the most rushing yards of any player on the Bucks offense in this game. A huge amount of credit needs to go to him because when everything broke down, he was able to pull out that trump card and be able to say, "No, I'm going to get this first down on with my legs. I'm going to be able to get this first down, avoiding three Lions pass rushers and getting the ball to my key guys, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and even a couple of backs out of the backfield in certain instances." Baker Mayfield had a stellar game, and it's got to be fun to watch as a Bucks fan. Um, the Bucks are one of those teams that always seems to have a really solid base to them, mostly because of their defense. I think a lot of that credit goes to Todd Bowles, who's been their defensive coordinator and is now taking the mantle as their head coach. I'm a huge fan of Todd Bowles. I think he's one of the more underrated defensive coordinators and head coaches in the league. I think you can't take this. You can never take this Bucks defense too lightly. They even had a few injuries today. Winfield out, a couple of folks out on the defensive line. Kalajic Kancey went down before the game. Vita Vea even went down in the second half. And you got to say the line that's when the defensive line can't perform or can't perform towards greatest potential, you got to say that the Lions need to take advantage of that with the run game, which is something they weren't able to do in this game. Aiden Hutchinson talked a little bit after the game about their defensive scheming, and they basically have 5 players up in the line at their base defense is basically a run stop defense. But they have the speed at the linebacker and the experience at the linebacker core. We're talking about Devin White. Um, different folks like that to be able to turn their hips and and cover the middle of the field, which is exactly where the Lions want to attack most of the time. It's the only place that Jared Goff really knows how to attack. So I think the Lions had a really tough time with the Buccaneers in that playoff game about a year ago, and they had a really tough time with the Bucs D again this time around. They stopped what the Lions want to do, which is run to pass, which is what the Lions should be wanting to do, which is run to pass. I think they got away from that a little bit in this game, which is something I'm going to talk about. But I think a lot of credit has to go to this Bucs defense and to this Bucs offense. They looked really good in Week 1, and they looked really good again this week. You know, there are a couple of little calls there, pat PIs in the end zone, spot fouls that gave them quite a big chunks of yardage. They were working with short fields in certain instances when the Lions turned the ball over. So but they got what they needed to do done. And a lot of that was basically without an offensive line. They didn't get any rushing yards in the day. I think 40 to 50 rushing yards, and then Baker Mayfield was the top performer, mostly on broken plays out of a pass. So, I think the Lions basically did their job on the defensive front, but the receiving core for the Buccaneers is so talented that if Baker Mayfield was able to make a couple guys miss, which he was able to do, he was usually able to find a receiver streaking across, a receiver with enough experience to make those plays at the boundary, something to keep the drive alive. 6, 7, 8, 10 yards down the field, that was able to get those key third downs. So that was a real key to the game. The Lions not being able to convert on third downs, getting into long third down situations, whereas the Bucs were able to basically get into those third down situations after not having much production on downs 1 and 2, but stay on the field, stay on the field, stay on the field, move the ball down the field just enough to get a field goal, to get into the end zone on a couple of occasions. And the Godwin touchdown in the first half, comes from basically the Lions biting too hard on one of their short routes, and then the Bucs basically taking advantage of it. That looked like something that they had schemed up, based on how the Lions were over pursuing on the boundary. They decided to beat him on that play. They knew that the linebackers couldn't get back over to the boundary that quickly. That was Jack Campbell over there in that instance. Wasn't able to buzz out to the boundary as quickly enough to recognize that route. A great play design by the Bucs and an easy touchdown. Godwin, cantering into the end zone without any type of challenge. So I think the Bucs did a great job doing what they needed to do to stay on the field, using their big body receivers and fast receivers and experienced receivers to basically pick apart the Lions' secondary on long coverages. It's so difficult in the NFL to be able to cover for more than 4 or 5 seconds, and Baker Mayfield was able to do enough to not get on the ground when the Lions didn't sack him, because the Lions did sack him a number of times, and but it was very high risk, high reward football. You don't really draw it up that way, but the Buccaneers were able to lean on Baker Mayfield's athleticism, able to do enough to stay on the field, drive the ball down the field, get enough points to basically to win this game. On the defensive side, um, they played really well, the Bucs. The Lions, I think, played into their hands too much. And I think this is where I want to get into a little bit of what the Lions are doing wrong on offense. It's very frustrating to watch because after you watch this is the same theme as the Rams game last week. We try to get away from the running game, which is our bread and butter, the thing that we supposedly do well, that's highly touted offensive line that is, as everyone says, among the best or the best in the league. And if you can't run the ball with the best offensive line in the league, what are you doing? Why build a great offensive line if you can't run the ball? Why build an offensive line and not go for a top X receiver if you're just going to try to win the game on Goff's back, and try to do run to pass instead of and try to do pass to run instead of run to pass? I know Vita Vea is in there, but they didn't have Kalijah Kancey. I know they're bringing their linebackers up front. They're trying to they're blitzing off the edge with their defensive backs, but there's got to be at least recognition that we are going to impose our will. We're at home. We have the crowd behind us. If we can get our offensive line in a roll, we can punch the Buccaneers in the mouth. If we can punch Vita Vea in the mouth, if we can punch this defensive front in the mouth, if we can make them go backwards on the run and hit them at in a point of pride, um, that is so big for confidence and for demoralizing the defense early and often in the game. And I think the Lions are not taking advantage of that strength that they have to be able to come out and punch folks in the mouth. We need to be able to impose our will on these defenses. It doesn't matter if they have Vita Vea or anyone else. If we have the best offensive line in the league, if we have David Montgomery, if we have Jameer Gibbs who can you can go inside and then outside, if we have folks like Almon St. Brown, if we have these end around plays that we can mix in there, if we have Sam Laporta who's a great blocker, if we have Brock Wright who's a great blocker, we need to be able to impose our will on any defensive line so that they have to respect the run. Because if you allow a defense to basically get after the quarterback and play coverage against the Lions, we're not going to see any type of, we had one play over the top to Jameson Williams. I'm surprised we should have done that more in this game. Fast linebackers are one thing, but they're not as fast as Jameson Williams. And if you want to take the top off of the Buccaneers and make them sit back a little bit, if you want to go run a pass, you're going to have to take a couple shots over the top in order to get the line to stop those safety pressures or those linebackers sitting right on the edges of the defensive line to stop the run. You got to make them respect it. So make them respect it. So I think the Lions are just kind of in the middle. They feel like they can do anything, which means they're not doing anything. If you know what I'm saying there, it's like they feel like they're so multiple that they're trying to show that they're multiple instead of just doing the thing that they're best at, which is running the football. And you saw it at the end of the game last game against the Rams. They went back to David Montgomery. They went back to Jameer Gibbs. They started to do that in the third quarter, more Jameer Gibbs this time. Um, but they need to be able to impose their will, especially in the third and fourth quarter. The defense is tired. Vita Vea left the game. That is the point where you need to say, all right, this game is over. We are ramming this down your throats. We don't care what it is. Running the ball does not need to be 7 or 8 yards a carry. You can get a first down running the football 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, so that if you're in a fourth down, you still have the entire playbook open to you. You can go play action. You can even boot Jared Goff out and get him, on a naked boot where no one's paying attention and get him to the boundary and get a first down because he's not out that fast to get out there. The whole playbook is open, and a short curl route to Sam Laporta or to Amon St. Brown, make them work the middle of the field, which they're great at. So many times the Lions are getting into third and long situations, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, where they've tried to run the ball, we didn't quite make it, so they shy away from it. So they're trying to pass the ball. They're going play action. They're trying to pass. They're trying to go down the field, but the Bucs are waiting for it. Jared Goff isn't able to make a play. Receivers aren't able to make a play, and all of a sudden you got 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, and everyone knows you're going to pass the ball there, and it's on Jared Goff's shoulders, and so they bring some pressure. They get in Jared Goff's face. He can't move. He moves his feet, and he's always going to be inaccurate when he moves his feet. He's not an athletic quarterback. So in those situations, it's even in late in the game when if you can get into a 4th and 2, 4th and 3 situation on their side of the field, we know Dan Campbell is going to take advantage of this situation and try to get the fourth down territory. Is a real thing for the Lions in a lot of these games. It's how they've won games in the past, and so we know that's a possibility for them. The defense has to respect it, and so we can do those short kind of dink and dunk passes on third down to get into that position. But then you have to be able to impose your will, and run the ball a few times. We are putting the game on Jared Goff's back when he is not in the position to win the game. We need to be leaning on the run more than leaning on the pass. And I feel like right now the Lions are leaning on the pass and not leaning on the pass in the ways that are to our advantage. So we try to force the ball to Alvin St. Brown. We're trying to get the ball to Jameson Williams on the outside. We just do not have the receiving threat on the outside. This is another thing. We've seen two games now where the Lions have had to basically try to come back and win the game. They were able to make it work against the Rams because they didn't have to go the full field. All they needed was a field goal in that case. This time we needed a touchdown. If you need a touchdown, you need to be able to set the offense. You need to be rolling down the field. You need to be able to get chunk plays and get out of bounds. Jared Goff is not able to work the boundary. He can't push the ball out to the boundary. And who's the X receiver? We're relying on Jameson Williams. In the final drive, Amon-Ra St. Brown was out of the game. When one of those receivers is out, where is the threat coming from? Because you can double up St. Brown. And you can cover the Bucs can match up against a Sam Laporta as Sam Laporta is gonna win that matchup the majority of the time. But you can make a coverage work against Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions are missing that threat on the outside. How many? Just look at the Rams game in the playoffs last year. A couple of receivers coming up big. Josh Reynolds coming up big, able to make those big catches down the field. Who is on the Lions roster now that can do that? Maybe Tim Patrick had a good a first down reception, moving the chains for us. He almost got another big first down conversion right out the boundary. Unfortunately, couldn't get his feet down. But the Lions seem to be shooting themselves in the foot here with their personnel and with the way that they're approaching the game planning in these first couple games. They're trying to get this pass established. They're trying to show that they're multiple. Um, and we're early in the season, so maybe these reps will pay dividends later on when the Lions finally start to click, because I think they can click. But in order to win these two first tough games, the Lions did not lean on their bread and butter, which is running the ball, especially when we didn't make them respect running the ball early. So lean on your offensive line, lean on David Montgomery. They're going to get you the win. Even Jameer Gibbs, sprinkling him in there. You got if we're gonna make them respect the screenplays, we got dinged on a couple of great screenplays there. Bucs really executed their screenplay as well. The Bucs are fast, the Bucs are physical. That defense is gonna get there, and if you don't give them anything to respect, they're not gonna go for the little for little fakes and jukes to set up the screen. They're just going to go straight for the receivers. They know that Jared Goff's going to try to get the ball out quickly. There's no reason to drop back in coverage, especially if you're not hitting Jameson Williams over the top. So just bad gaming planning. And Ben Johnson needs to be put on notice. These are two games here where we are trying to force something that's not working. And I understand it if this is something that we're trying to work on, if you can see kind of a light at the end of the tunnel or something like that, you can see them trying to do that certain thing is right. But there's not enough there to say that there's a lot of potential for this type of attack. We're not going to be able to drop back Jared Goff 50, I think was the stats crazy? Like 55 passes? 55? Um you're not going to win the game that way. This is Lions football, smash mouth football. Stop dropping Jared Goff back. You need him to have his security blanket. Give him his security blanket. He's not going to be able to do this on his own. And I'm not a get Jared Goff hater. I think he's a top five or six quarterback in the NFL. I think the term game manager gets thrown around. He's an intelligent player. He's an efficient player most of the time. But we are not going to be able to win games based on his arm talent like Matthew Stafford. We're not going to be able to win games on him extending plays and making plays like Baker Mayfield. It's said as it's often said as a drawback to Jared Goff's game that everything needs to be perfect around him for in order to win. There are certain quarterbacks where everything is perfect around them and they still can't win. So Jared Goff has shown the ability. He's gotten to a Super Bowl. I mean, he's gotten to the NFC Championship with the freaking Lions. Um, you know, You got to give the guy his credit. You got to give the guy his money. You got to give the guy his props when he is performing at a high level. He has won game for the Lions before, so he is a top quarterback. But you have to play to his strengths. He has to have the security blanket. He has to have those middle of the field throws available to him. He's got to have good communication with his receivers. You've got to be able to have those receivers that can play physical down the field and fight through for a catch, like Amon-Ra St. Brown is able to do. We saw in the first interception there. A lot of Lions fans and myself included, that's a pass interference. That's it. If anything, that's illegal contact. We've seen the illegal contact penalties given before, especially the way that Terry on Arnold has been called this first couple games. That's got to be given. That first interception is just a killer right off the bat to give the Bucs basically they only gotten a field goal. Give the ball to back to them with a short field where they can get another 3 points. That's basically a touchdown. It's already a two possession game for the Lions there. So so that stuff has got to be called. There's got to be more consistency there, but Jameis Williams isn't fighting through any of that contact. You're gonna send him over the field, great. You want him to see, you want those deep crossers. He's got to be free. If a team wants to kind of bump him at the line of scrimmage, get in his face, he's not gonna be able to fight through that stuff. And that's a key aspect of being a threat over the middle of the field. You need to be able to fight through contact. And Jameson Williams is not really going to be able to be that type of threat for the Lions. I don't know if they're trying to kind of force him into that role because of the personnel that they don't have, but I don't think that's going to work for them um, in the short or in the long term. So I think they need to figure out, okay, who are our threats over the middle, and how can we use Jameson Williams to do what he does best, take the top off the defense. We need to have him do some crossers and things like that, but going to him on a third down at the boundary. I mean, we saw this in their on their. This was so frustrating. One of their in the first half, they had a chance to get into the end zone. They're on the 5 yard line or so. Third down. Um, I want to see in that situation. Okay, you don't have to run straight at Vita Vea, but I want to see the Lions. It's third down. It could be even if you don't make it running the ball, you're still going to get a chance on fourth down, even if it's fourth and inches or something like that. These are crime running scenarios, and the Lions are able to punch the ball in. Their biggest threat at the goal line is their running game. Why are we sending Jameson Williams, double covered, mind you, to the boundary to make a tiptoe catch at the corner of the end zone, trying to get Jared Goff, who does not have the greatest arm strength in the world, slinging it out there? We're you're forcing too much. You're trying to make the offense into something it's not. It may be in the future, but it's not right now. And if you want to win these games early in the year, you need to play to your strengths. Keep working on that stuff in the bye week, and maybe you'll be able to pull one out of the bag at some point in the season. But right now, against the Bucs defense, that's not going to work. I know that the middle of the field is the Bucs' strength, but the middle of the field is the Lions' strengths too. We are at home. We need to impose our will because that's what bully ball football means. You impose your will. It doesn't matter what the defense comes out with. We need to be able to run the ball. And in order to run the ball and in order to pass the ball, we need to run the ball. That's the way the Lions offense works. So Brent Johnson needs to realize who his personnel is and what is working, and get back to that more early and more often in these games in order for the Lions to have success. I'm talking about running the ball 2 or 3 times a drive, in a sequence. Run the ball in first down, 2 yard gain. Run the ball in second down, 4 yard gain. All right, now it's third and 4 instead of third and 7, third and 8. When you're trying to pass the ball, you're trying to get it to St. Brown, but everyone knows you're trying to pass the ball. So it's just really frustrating to see, especially after watching the success that they had against the Rams in that overtime drive. You'd think that they'd try to recognize the good thing they have going there, and if you can impose your will on a Vita Vea defensive line, you got to give it a shot. Like you want to talk about striking fear into the league. If you show on tape that your offensive line can dominate this defensive front for the Buccaneers, you're going to see teams trying to pack the box to six on every single down. The Lions need to even if it doesn't work, I would rather see a three and out running the ball than a three and out Jared Goff throwing the ball 3 times trying to get to a receiver that's not open. I mean, we have to be able to wear these defenses down. And just the lack of recognition when Vita Vea went out of the game was just unforgivable. I know what the game plan is, but it's not going to plan. The Bucs are ahead. You need to go back to what works, and you need to move the ball down the field. You need to take possessions out of the opposing offense's hands to make that work. 2 interceptions for Goff in this game. I think the stat now is he has one throwing touchdown, and he has 3 interceptions on the year. 2 games, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. So something's not going right on the communication. You can forgive the first one. The defensive back is not called for a clear, I think, legal contact on the field, if not pass interference. Okay. But Jared Goff is trying to throw the ball into too many windows here. He's trying to get the ball out to the boundary on big third down situations. He is not the. This is not the way to. This is not winning football for the Lions, especially at home. If we are running the ball and we just cannot do it, okay, fine. Give it to Jared Goff and try to see if he can do something. But we need to keep going back to the run because that's our bread and butter. So, I think that's a big deal. That needs to be corrected. Um, and then just the coaching in general. Dan Campbell talked about it after the game. That's a big 3 points to give up at the end of the first half. Not understanding the situation. If the Lions get 3 points again, I mean, it almost bit them. It almost came back to bite them in the Rams game, and it did come back to bite them in this game. 4 points down at the end of the game. You had a field goal there. The Lions have that game won, and even despite their mistakes, the Bucs didn't really make any mistakes in this game except for maybe one Baker Mayfield pass where he had 2 wide receivers in the area. There was no, there's no reason for him to think that his receivers aren't going to make a play in that situation. Big third down, and Brian Branch comes up with a spectacular pick. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not allow themselves to be beat by themselves, and the Lions are kind of tripping over themselves in different areas and still almost winning the game against a great football team. So this is not to say like the Lions are terrible. They're not going to be able to do anything this year. Last year, as everyone has mentioned, you know they had a week 2 game against the Seahawks. Got summarily handled by the Seahawks in that game. I don't think they were summarily handled by the Bucs in this game, but it was a similar type of situation where the Lions just couldn't get they just couldn't get anything working. And hopefully, we make these adjustments early in the season so that we get rolling later in the season, and get back to our identity and understand how to win games again. But this could be a blessing in disguise for the Lions, getting punched in the mouth by a good team early on, so they understand what the standard is this year. It's not going to be any type of, everyone's coming for your best game. The Lions were basically hairs, 1 interception away from being the NFC champion, and going to the Super Bowl last year. Everyone's coming with their A game, and so the Lions need to come with their A game as well. It's the time for kind of tinkering around and trying to find a solution for different things. You know, it's coming to an end. We need to start winning football games here soon, and it's a tough start to the season. But I think Ben Johnson overall really needs to take a note of what's going well and what's not going well, and try to find some solutions here because the way that he's trying to put the team on Jared Goff's back is not the way to win the game. I understand we're trying to put it on our captain and one of our best players, but we have other great players and we need to make sure that we're leaning on them and getting their due as well. So just like a final word on the defense, the defense again playing bend but not break defense. They just got beat by some really awesome quarterback play from Baker Mayfield, just doing what he does best. Like as I mentioned earlier, in my darker moments, like talk about grit. Like this Baker Mayfield, if Jared Goff doesn't work out for the Lions, this guy gets so much disrespect, Baker Mayfield. And I think it sounds crazy to say, he's an underrated passer of the football. He knows how to make things happen. And I think, in an offense that has so many weapons, I think he would actually thrive in the Lions offense. We're not talking he has the arm strength to get the ball down the field. He knows what it's like to throw to top tier receivers. They brought those receivers back this year. Mike Evans coming back to play with Baker Mayfield. They felt really good about where they were with him. And he's proven a lot of people wrong. And I think people need to take notice of the Bucs. I think they are a great team. And so the Lions, no disrespect to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions are a great football team. They almost won this game, even making a bunch of mistakes. But the Buccaneers are a great team, and it's no shame to lose this game to the Buccaneers. I think the Lions will be better for this game, but they do need to shape up quickly because the tough games are not stopping. We go to Arizona next week. And the Arizona Cardinals have had a couple of strong games to start the season. They handled the Rams in week two. And they're going to be a tough game, going into their stadium. The Lions' Achilles heel, just like it was in this game, has been mobile quarterbacks. And we are going into a game next week against one of the more dangerous mobile quarterbacks in the entire league. Extremely fast, extremely intelligent when he gets out of the pocket. Um, the Cardinals quarterback uh, is one of the best at at making things happen when the play breaks down, and that seems to be where the Lions are most vulnerable. They have they have the threat now with the rookie wide receiver, who had a big day this week, in week two. So they're going to be looking to hurt the Lions over the top. They're going to be looking to hurt the Lions in the pass game. They have a good running back. They'll be able to do things against this Lions defense. It may be another kind of situation of the Lions going into the game, doing bend not break. We're going to see a lot of third down runs, a lot of third down conversions, um, from the Cardinals offense. But the Lions should be able to impose their will on this defense and run the ball. They say running attack travels. They need to show that in this game. We need a lot of David Montgomery, and we need a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs to get a win next week in Arizona. Because if we're trying to put the ball in Jared Goff's hands again, I think it's going to be a long day for the Lions. And we could be starting this season 1-2. And we saw the Vikings beat the 49ers. Vikings seem to be a bugaboo team for the 49ers for some reason, but this NFC North is not starting off the way that the Lions wanted it to. If we go into Arizona and we don't get that win, so we'll see what adjustments that they can make. But we definitely need to get back to our bread and butter. The Lions need to recognize exactly how they're able to win the games, how they need to impose their will, get back to what they do best, because that's winning football. And stop trying to be what they're not. I think they're enamored with all these kind of weapons that they have, but they don't quite know what they are, which is kind of obvious to everyone. They are a smash mouth football team that's going to be able to hit the deep threat with Jamison Williams when Jared Goff finally turns around, fakes the handoff and sees Jamison Williams with the double move over the top. That's how we win the game. That's how we win the game. But it's based on that solid running attack. We got to get back to it. Ben Johnson, listen to us. We got to get back to that rushing attack. So we'll see how they do in week three. Disappointing week two, but as we saw last year, this can be a platform for something greater. It'll force the Lions to look at their mistakes, to get more detailed. As the player said after the game, to think about how to get back to winning football. And the Lions can travel. they can bring that running attack and beat these Arizona Cardinals. So optimistic for week 3, but that was a great football team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll see them probably in the postseason, I would expect. They're going to be a fun team to watch so far this year. But let's see if the Lions can get back to winning football. So that's the analysis for this week. Lions fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we'll see you next week against the Arizona Cardinals. Thanks, y'all, and we'll see you later.